Hello and welcome back to my channel. So I've switched up the location of where I'm filming today because it's like 5 o'clock here in Scotland and anything beyond 5 in the winter is like pitch black outside, so I need as much natural lighting as I can get, to be honest. Also ignore the fact I'm in the same outfit as my last video. I'm filming it on the same day, but it's fine. So today I'm going to be talking about the 15 books I read in January, and that's a lot of books, so I better get started. So first, this is in no particular order, I'm just literally grabbing it off the top of the stack because I can't be bothered to mess around with the giant stack that I've got sitting behind me because it'll all fall over and I don't want that. So this book is The Missing of Claire de Lune. You can't even see it because the light's reflecting on it, but this is the second book in my favourite series of all time. This was actually a reread, and this series, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis, but I'm going to try and be really quick because I've got 15 books. This series follows a world where it's been smashed into pieces, and these pieces are like floating islands where people live. The main character gets arranged to be married to a man on a floating island that is like far away from her own, and it's very different from hers. Everyone there is out to get each other and trying to undermine each other, and it's very political and scary, and I just love this series. So I reread the second book, which is actually my favourite in the series, and it still is my favourite. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars the second time round, and I just want to reread it again already. I've already forgotten some things, so I probably will reread it at some point in this year, to be honest. So love this, amazing. The next book is the third book in a series, and that is A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. This is the third book in the Ember in the Ashes quartet. There's 4 in total. This one, to be honest, might be my favourite so far. I thought the first one was my favourite, but towards the end of this, things got really intense and I loved it, to be honest. I loved the way the story went, and I've actually already started the fourth one. So yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The second one is definitely my least favourite, but this one definitely redeemed it. Loved it. Oh, also, I forgot the synopsis. This is a Roman-inspired fantasy story about the main character. Leia is basically a scholar who are they're kind of treated as second-class citizens in this society, and basically after this traumatic event that has happened in her life that cost her some of her family members and her brother's capture, she decides to go undercover as a slave to rescue her brother from prison. Next is a standalone YA horror book called Horrid by Katrina Leno, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the twists and the plot. I just loved this book. It was such a fun time. I think I read it in 2 days or something like that. This book follows a girl who moves to her mother's childhood home with her mother after her dad dies, and the house is kind of haunted, and that's all I'm going to say. It's amazing. I highly suggest that you read it. So the next book is a very popular one, and actually the first book I read this month and the first book I read all year, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book was amazing. It's 5 out of 5 stars. Don't think it's my favourite V.E. Schwab. I think my favourite is, to be honest, one of the Shades of Magic books, but this one was very close second. It's so good. If you don't know already, it follows the life of Addie LaRue, who in 18th century France makes a deal with the devil to basically be free and live her own life. However, she doesn't know that one of the consequences of this is that no one will remember her. Like, they'll literally forget her if they turn away from her. And it just follows her life over the course of 300 years, and the plot kind of picks up when someone actually remembers her. And I thought this book was so good. I don't understand why people wouldn't like it. Like, if you don't like the main character, then you're not going to like it because it's literally just her internal thoughts for 500 pages. But I did, fortunately, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. Next is another book that I gave 5 stars and absolutely loved, one of my favourites of the month, and that was The Henna Wars. And this book was so good. It's a sapphic YA romance, and it's flipping out a bit there. And it's just so good. I need to give a synopsis. I'm so bad at synopsis. Synopsis. I'm so bad at giving summaries, but I'll try my best. This follows a girl who just came out to her parents as lesbian and didn't really feel accepted by their reaction, and there's a competition going on at her school and she decides to start a henna business, but a girl who is new to her school also decides to start doing a henna business, and it's just about their rivalry and their romance. And I just loved it so much. I listened to it on audiobook and the audiobook was actually so good. So yeah, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Amazing. I highly recommend. Next is a bit random from the other ones, but I loved it anyway, and that is Shiver by Junji Ito. This book is a horror manga. It's 13 short stories. I know a lot of people on BookTube have read Junji Ito's books, and that's why I wanted to pick them up myself, and it did not disappoint. It was so good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought the stories were so interesting, and yeah, can't really give a synopsis because they're individual short stories. They're like 30 pages long, so I couldn't give you a plot of each of them because it would kind of just spoil it. But I highly recommend, if you're into horror, this one is just so good. Next, another book that is actually very popular at the moment, and that is Legendborn. Everyone's ranting and raving about this book, so I had to see if I would like it too, and I did. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason I didn't give it 5 is mainly because I was just a bit confused at times, but that's honestly it. I loved the main character. I thought she was really amazing. This follows a girl who, after her mum's death, she decides to move school to this like boarding school, and at her first night there she witnesses a magical attack and then gets dragged into this society at the university or the college, and yeah, it just follows her adventures there, and it's so good. It's so well written. I think it's a debut novel, which is amazing. But yeah, I'm excited to see where the series goes because this was really good. Next was Deadly Education, and I did not like this book. I actually didn't rate it the first time I read it. I've only read it once, but initially when I read it, I didn't give it a rating because I just didn't know, honestly, and in my wrap up on my TikTok I gave it 1 star. But to be honest, I still don't really know. This book follows this magical school that there's no teachers there, and basically half of the students will die before graduation because there's these monsters living in the school and they just have to fight them off by themselves. And there's some like enemies to lovers as well. But honestly, I did not like this book. I thought it was a massive info dump. It was just information after information, a lot of telling and not showing. I found myself just zoning out and skim reading it, and yeah, I just didn't like it. So I don't really want to give it a star rating, but if I had to, it probably would be a 1. Okay, the next one is very controversial. People will probably be mad at me for this, but I read Legend and I gave it 2 stars. I just thought this book was very predictable, very overdone, and I don't think that's the author's fault because it was written in like 2012 and that was like the thing at the time. However, I've just read it so many times that I just was so uninterested. Also because people were ranting and raving about it, I had such high expectations, and also I really liked Warcross by Marie Lu, but this just fell flat for me. It had a lot of tropes that I didn't like insta-love and stuff like that. To give a synopsis, it's about this America in a dystopian society that's kind of been split into 2 sections, and the main character is basically trying to get revenge for her brother's death. And yeah, that's all I can really remember. I read this at the start of the month, but honestly I can't remember anything. I've got 2 other books in this series that I own. I don't know if I'll pick them up. I actually started the second book and got 24 pages in and put it back down again, but who knows, maybe I will pick it up at some point, or maybe I will unhaul it. I don't know yet. But that made me kind of sad because I really wanted to love this book. The next book I read I did like, and that was Strange the Dreamer. This book I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It follows a man who is obsessed with this ancient lost city called Weep. He dedicates his entire life to researching it, and then one day he kind of gets the opportunity to travel there, and I really loved this book. I loved a lot of things about it. I loved the writing and the world building and a lot of the characters. I did get a bit bored towards the end as a chunky book, and I felt at times it was a bit repetitive. That's why it's 4-star, not 5-star, but it's still a really enjoyable read, and I can't wait to read the sequel. Next we have 3 books. Oh, I just dropped them. Next we have 3 books in the same series, and that is The Mortal Instruments. I read City of Ashes, City of Glass and City of Fallen Angels, and I gave them all 4-star, I think. I think maybe City of Ashes was 3 stars. Right, people are going to come at me for giving Legend 2 stars and giving these like 3 to 4, but I think the main thing was everyone hyped up Legend so much, and then everyone trashes on this series, me included, so much that I had the lowest expectations, especially after reading The Infernal Devices, which I didn't like when I first read them, and also I didn't like City of Bones. So when I got to these 3, I was just not in the mood. I had the lowest expectations possible, so when it was not as bad as I thought it was, I was like, this is great. Whereas with Legend, I had the highest expectations and it just didn't meet them for me. So if you want an explanation of why I rate these higher than Legend, that's it. I've still got 2 more in the series to read. We'll see how much I like them. I'm glad a certain thing in the series is now over, hopefully. That really put me off reading the series and did scar me quite a bit while I was reading the series. If you don't know, then that's good for you. But if you've read the series or know anything about it, you probably do know what I'm referring to. But yeah, I'm glad that's over now. And I'm excited to see where the series goes. I actually also mainly read this series so I could read The Dark Artifices, I think that's how it's pronounced, because I heard good things about that, so I'm glad I'm almost done with it. And lastly, 2 more books. They were both rereads, and that is Clockwork Angel and Clockwork Prince. As I said before, I didn't like the series when I first read it. I actually did quite like the second 2, but the first one, really didn't like it. I put it in so many like TikToks where I'm like my least favourite books or my most disappointing books or books everyone loves that I didn't love. Yeah, this was in so many of them. I had really high expectations for Clockwork Angel because that was before I read any Cassandra Clare books, so, and it just disappointed me. But then I read Clockwork Prince and Princess and liked them a bit better. But since reading The Mortal Instruments, because I was like, I'm kind of liking The Mortal Instruments, and usually that's like one that's trashed on more than The Infernal Devices, I wonder if I reread them, I would like them better now because I'm used to her writing style and the world and stuff like that. So I reread this and gave it 4 stars. I actually liked it and I'm quite happy about that. I don't know what happened when I read it the first time round, and yeah, yet again with Clockwork Prince, I think I gave it 5 stars. It's probably more than 4.5, but it was even better than this one the second time round, and I just really liked it. If you want a synopsis, it's all the Shadowhunter books are about these people called Shadowhunters who fight demons. And this series follows a girl called Tessa, who travels from America and basically gets involved with the Shadowhunters. She isn't one herself, she actually doesn't know what she is. However, she does find she has some sort of magical abilities. It's about her life living with the Shadowhunters, basically, and finding out why she had to go to England, I think. So yeah, that is the 15 books I read in January. I'm going to hurry up now because my throat is really sore for talking so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know what you feel about me rating Legend 2 stars and The Mortal Instruments like 4 stars. I know that's a very unpopular opinion. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I hope you had a good day. Bye!